Rise and shine, shitheads. It's another episode of Puppet Masters and Castle Freaks, the internet's leading all thing Charles Band podcast, and I will not be toyed with. Is there anyone else hanging out in this creepy castle ready to talk about this movie with me?
Well, I'm Steve Gutley, and I definitely will be toyed with. Let's be honest. I'm definitely going to get toyed with, because this is the podcast. It's all about creepy Italian puppets, cartoon blood spray, and racist talking baby dolls. That's because this is the podcast about Demonic Toys 2, the long-delayed follow-up to the 1992 cult favorite that we covered a couple of weeks ago. And of course, we got a deuce here, so we got to bring in a duo of people to come in and help us talk about it. Who's here with us today?
Slow down, Daddy. We got company. As a matter of fact, we've got two wonderful fellas here who run the amazing Movie Dumpster podcast and YouTube channel. Joe and Sean from Movie Dumpster. What is up, guys? Thank you for joining us.
Hey, guys. Thanks for having us, man.
What is up?
Thanks for being here. We appreciate it. Good to have you guys. We're big fans of your podcast, and glad to have some little extra expertise on this series, because we're not going to go too deep into it, but I think this is the Demonic Toys episode that we did a couple weeks ago is the one we've gotten kind of the most pushback on.
Hotly contested,
because we were both pretty lukewarm on it, and apparently this one is a big cult favorite for a lot of Full Moon fans. Like, this one's kind of upper tier for a lot of people, and it's sort of wound up in the not quite in the evil bong zone, but it's hovering around that area for both of us.
The first one is second only to Puppet Master for me.
Oh,
personally.
wow! Okay.
I love Demonic Toys.
Oh, you're one of them.
Oh, yeah,
great. So I appreciate having. So yeah, I wanted to ask you guys about your experience with this series in general.
You want to go first, or you want me to go first?
Yeah, I'll go real quick. So if you listen to Movie Dumpster at all, we did actually cover Demonic Toys like years ago, and we kind of have a running joke with some of the characters in it. Specifically, Peter Manoogian's character Charnetsky is a staple on our show.
That's Peter Shrum.
Oh, Peter Shrum. Who's Peter Manoogian? Why is that name?
He's the director.
Yeah, he directed the
first one. God. Anyway. So when we covered on that show, on our own show, that was my first exposure to it, because I'm not like a Full Moon baby. I never really watched the movies as a kid. Joe is the guy that got me into it and doing the show. And now, like, I've seen a lot of these films you've probably already covered. But that was kind of my introduction to actually doing Movie Dumpster and being like, and knowing Joe for many years prior to that. Movie Dumpster was finally the thing that kind of kicked off my, I guess, love for Demonic Toys, because I do like it a lot too. It's definitely not one of my favorite movies, but I enjoy it quite a bit.
Yeah, man. I like Sean said, I am that Full Moon baby. I mean, I remember. Hold on a second. There you go. Yeah, I am that Full Moon baby. I remember renting all this stuff in the 90s and just being completely obsessed with Full Moon and Puppet Master and toys coming to life and stuff like that. So I share that kinship with Charles Band. Yeah, Demonic Toys. There's something about it. There's something between, the foul mouth Baby Oopsie Daisy and just all the John Carl Buechler effects in that. I don't know. It just hits. It just hits.
When we talked about the movie, we talked about the effects, I think, in a pretty positive way. I think it was sort of like the utilization maybe of the Demonic Toys themselves, or something in the plot, sort of the melodramatic human story part of the plot of that movie didn't quite work for us. But I do think that a lot of people who love Demonic Toys, the movie, not the items, the entities as they were people who, like you, saw it at a young age. I think if I had nostalgia attached to Demonic Toys, I would feel stronger about it, which I think you could probably say about a lot of things. But like, I also, and Steve too, we came into this podcast in sort of a weird way, in that I had seen more Full Moon stuff and Empire stuff than Steve has. But I'm definitely not somebody who I would say I saw the vast majority of Charles Band's filmography at a young age. I did, however, read It Came from the Video Aisle, and I was super interested over the last few years to learn more about Charles Band as a business mogul, as a person, as an entrepreneur, as a creative type. And like, he was fascinating to me. And it made me want to go back and revisit a lot of the blind spots in Full Moon. So some of the movies, I understand listeners might be a little perturbed that we don't bring the same affection for some of these things because they love them a lot when they were young. So we're pretty objective, and there's not nostalgia attached to it for some of the properties. And Demonic Toys is one of those. Like, I don't hate it or anything. I'll probably watch it again in the reasonably near future, meaning sometime in the next few years when I'm not doing homework for full moon movies. But like it's I can totally understand the elements of that movie hitting someone at a young age. And so aside from Full Moon, like you guys talk about a ton of horror movie stuff on Movie Dumpster. It's really horror centric. What are some of your like gateway stuff, and how did you discover it as kids? You said you found Full Moon as a kid. Like, was it just Full Moon first, or like what were your kind of introductory horror movies?
Full Moon came a little later as I got older, but my mother is big on horror movies, so they were always on when I was little from a very, very young age. Your Chucky's, your Jason's, your Freddy's, your Michael Myers. But I kind of found what I liked and what I really attached to were things like anything with puppets or animatronics or weird little creatures were my thing.
Oh, we have a couple of movies for you.
Oh yeah, well, the Full Moon universe, baby.
Have you heard of Tubi?
Yes, I have.
You can find a lot of them there.
They're also all on my shelves in my basement as well. Yeah, so growing up as a kid, I mean, Full Moon I was like a kid in a candy store in the video store with this because there were releases all the time between Full Moon and Moonbeam, which I was kind of right in the pocket there for the horror stuff, but also some of the kid stuff like Pet Shop and Dragon World and stuff like that. And I also had a little sister too, so that kind of worked out. But the Josh Kirby series, which we'll be talking about soon.
Yeah.
But yeah, they've kind of Full Moon as a whole, I've never really talked about it that much, but Full Moon as a whole and Empire Pictures and things like that kind of shaped a big part of my taste in film and my path in life, honestly. So
that's awesome.
Is that just because you bought a castle?
I wish, right?
Bought a luxurious Italian castle.
Let's shoot
do most of your podcasts.
Let's shoot every movie there.
With a massive full moon behind it at all times, obviously.
Of course.
Oh, obviously. And little bats, you got to get the bats on there.
So Sean, what about you? What was your sort of like gateway to finding horror, something that you were going to do into adulthood and as a hobby and profession?
I guess like my dad kind of introduced me to a lot of like the classic like Universal Monsters was the stuff he was really into. So that was kind of my first exposure to horror. So a lot of like those older films like Frankenstein and Dracula and even like, The Incredible Shrinking Man, stuff like that, The Fly. And then I really kind of fell off it. Like I really didn't get heavy duty into horror until I was like in high school outside of those like early horror films. And then I've had the itch ever since, I guess. And I've just kind of been trying to consume as many horror movies as I can, especially since we started doing the show. But again, I think I said this before, but Joe kind of kicked the old throttle into overdrive when I met him. And he was such a big horror fan. I kind of just, by the osmosis of knowing him, kind of just started to be more into it myself. And now it's my favorite film genre.
Amazing.
If we're hanging out, we're watching a movie. We're watching some Full Moon bullshit, right? Like some like Rubber Monster B movie garbage.
Oh yeah.
Also, new name for the podcast, Full Moon Bullshit, because it is what Steve and I are doing, right?
Pretty much, primarily, and Empire bullshit.
I jest.
Yeah. Wait till you get to the Moonbeam bullshit.
Oh yeah, we've covered Pre-Hysteria, so yeah, we're on the map with that one.
Yeah.
We did
some of those other ones. Pre-Hysteria 3, you guys did?
Yeah, we covered that.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, that's amazing.
With a JFK
Steve,
joke.
Well,
back to the left.
Oh, it's always welcome. Always welcome at all times. And speaking of Full Moon bullshit, specifically Demonic Toys 2, Steve, can you fire off a couple of stats about this movie for us?
I definitely can. Demonic Toys 2, a.k.a. Dangerous Toys, a.k.a. Demonic Toys Personal Demons. Yes, this one has multiple titles, as any good B-movie should. This was released January 26, 2010. It's written and directed by William Butler, and it stars Ali Kinzel, Lane Compton, Celine Luna, Michael Citroniti, Elizabeth Ball, Leslie Jordan, and Jane Wiedlin as Baby Oopsie. So director William Butler, he has been deep in the horror world for about 40 years now.
Heavy hitter with Full Moon.
Yeah, he's acted in pretty much every capacity. You'll recognize him as an actor from movies like Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3, Friday the 13th Part 7, and the 1990 remake of Night of the Living Dead. He first got involved with Charles Band back in 1987. He played Merle in Ghoulies 2, and then he took on roles in Arena and Spellcaster after that. He pretty much retired from acting in 1997 and transitioned behind the camera. He wrote the screenplays for Full Moon movies like the Ginger Dead Man trilogy, and became a rather prolific B-movie horror director. In addition to this film, he helmed Resonator, Miskatonic U, and all of the Demonic Toys spin-offs, including the Baby Oopsie series and the recent Jack Attack standalone movie. All right, so while this movie is the official sequel to the original, this is technically the fourth film in the franchise.
We messed up. We messed up timing-wise with this one.
You know what? I don't even think we did. I think I'm going to consider the other ones part of the Dollman and Puppet Master continuity, because Dollman only gets the one sequel, which is the crossover with Demonic Toys from '93, and then we got a Puppet Master crossover around the same time as this one. I think that was a sci-fi original movie.
Well, and speaking of sci-fi original movies, it should be pointed out that William Butler also directed the fourth and fifth Return of the Living Dead movies.
That's right. That both came out in the same year.
I think they premiered on the same day, actually, on the Sci-Fi Channel, which, if I'm wrong about that, listeners, please correct me, but I think that is a factoid about those, that they premiered on Sci-Fi on the same day.
That was Rave from the Grave and something else, right?
I knew one of them had something to do with the Rave. I never saw those two, but
also real quick, William Butler also he was an effects guy too. He helped a lot in Buechler's workshop and stuff like that. So
absolutely, yeah, he really has like been on every side of the horror industry at this point. He's also a producer and a screenwriter, and he does a little bit of everything.
So I want to apologize. Return of the Living Dead 4 is called Necropolis. And the fifth one is called Rave to the Grave. He did not direct those; he wrote them.
He wrote them.
I misspoke, and I caught that. But I think this also, I mean, this is also tied to a movie we'll be covering at some point in the near future, Hideous.
Oh yeah,
I was going to bring that up when we got into it.
I don't know.
This convoluted of our episodes.
I had to Google that one.
Yeah, I haven't seen Hideous. I'm looking forward to that one, and it has nothing to do with my crush on Jacqueline Lavelle whatsoever. That's not professional of me. I would not be excited for a movie for that reason.
I don't know if you're a fan of the show, but Jacqueline Lavelle, if you are listening, hit us up to guest on the show. We would love to have you.
Yes. If you want to see me stutter, it's really fun. So this movie ignores the events of those two crossover films. So basically, this would be a direct sequel to Demonic Toys. Although I would argue it kind of ignores the events of Demonic Toys 1 as well. 100%. It doesn't really, outside of like the presence of three of the toys here, or two of the toys.
Two of the toys, yeah.
It doesn't
I think they
really
mixed the script up with Puppet Master at some point, but continue.
I'm wondering. Yeah, I think they got
mixed it up with Hideous. That's for sure.
So in true Chucky style, the new designs are very similar to the old ones. They just have stitches on them to make them look more menacing. So John Carl Buechler did actually work a little bit on these designs, but asked to not be credited because he really was not happy with the way these turned out. Yeah, Mr. Static the robot and Teddy the teddy bear have been cut from the roster. But in true Full Moon fashion, we do need to add one, because we need another toy. And in this case, it is Diavoletto, the ancient Italian demon puppet. So again, we're transitioning back into puppets, like Demonic Toys had their own thing, but now there's also a puppet in here. And then some other noteworthy people to mention in here is Jane Wiedlin, the voice of Baby Oopsie in this. You might know her best as the guitarist from the Go-Go's. And as a
unfortunately for all of us, her lips were not sealed.
They were not.
Because this is a terrible voice performance.
It's pretty bad. She's done some good stuff in the past. She was in she was one of the Hex girls in Scooby-Doo and the Witch's Ghost and stuff like that. She seems like a fun weirdo in real life. She just has a fun vibe.
Yeah.
She's Joan of Arc in Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure.
She sure was. Yes, she was amazing in that. And so she, so she's stepping into voice Baby Oopsie this time. And it's great to see Leslie Jordan in this movie, who We just passed the anniversary of his untimely death. Unfortunately,
Mhm.
he's just a great little firecracker of a character actor. It's always great to see him pop up, whether it's in Will and Grace or Jason Goes to Hell. You know, it's always fun to see Leslie Jordan. We lost him in a car accident about a year ago, sadly. But he was a hoot, and he's
If
got a
you've
very
got
fun autobiography.
Will and Grace and Jason Goes to Hell on your filmography, you did all right.
He was having
It's
kind of
on mine.
a cool like late career resurgence because his
Mhm.
Instagram blew up over COVID. He started becoming like a really prolific social media guy.
Well, he
towards
also had another comeback right before that. He was on American Horror Story a bunch.
That's right.
Mhm.
Yeah, he was a
Yep.
Murphy guy. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and but he's having fun here. He's a guy who always kind of knows what movie he's in and is having a really good time.
I feel like
Um,
he does a lot of improv in this, and it works really well.
Yeah, he's really bringing the little moments of energy that this movie has are being largely provided by Leslie Jordan working a little
You're
overtime.
right.
Because
Arguably the best part.
I'll tip my hand right now. You know, I was not a huge fan of Demonic Toys 1, but I'm a bigger fan of it now. In comparison, I think it's now the standout of the series, and it's elevated a lot in my opinion because, man, this thing is just, a latter day full moon is always kind of a bummer. I feel like they've been on a little bit of a rebound like the last 2 or 3 years where it
It
feels like
seems
they're
that way. It seems like they're kind of trending back upward. Like some of the more recent things I've seen promoted by Full Moon Features. I think there was just a time in our collective culture where from like 2005 to like 2014, where anything that was like noticeably shot digitally just looked like complete dog shit.
Oh yeah, this
Yeah.
one looks like it
Mm.
might have actually been filmed on an iPhone 1, like a first generation iPhone. Because immediately your first impression was like, oh yeah, this movie looks bad. And I think kind of the worst sin, like I can deal with a movie looking kind of grainy and shitty, like something like Open Water, which is almost like impossible to look at, even though it's from 2006. But if the audio is on par, like if the audio is like keeping up and you can hear things clearly and it sounds fairly professional, I can forgive a lot. This one does not have that. This one sounds like they're using a lot of like native audio in the halls of this castle. So you're not really hearing much of what's being said, or it's like echoey and distant and it just sounds poorly mixed.
Yeah, it's nothing like Doll Graveyard. That you want to talk about shitty production? My
I haven't
goodness.
seen that one yet, but
Wait,
I'm
wait,
willing to bet.
I'm familiar with that one, and we'll get there. It was, I thought we actually had thrown around the idea of, because our initial plan for the show was to have a full doll themed month, which didn't quite work out. It almost worked out, but
Yeah.
we Doll Graveyard was one we were going to throw into the month of November, and we were kind of hoping someone would request it to be a guest on it. And we were like, all right, well, I guess we were going to actually team it up with another movie, which we probably will do when the episode proper comes out. But then luckily somebody reached out to us and suggested a much better movie. So then we recorded an episode on that one, which was not,
Yeah,
Doll
that
Graveyard.
was a much more fun one to do. Yeah.
What
for
was the
sure.
one? What was the one they suggested?
Rawhead
Who's,
Rex.
Oh,
yeah,
that was
Rawhead
our first
Rex.
episode.
Now you're talking. Yeah, that was the first episode of the Movie Dumpster podcast. Yeah.
Oh
Yeah,
wow.
I mean, that's night and day, those two things.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
Rawhead loves to give people raspberries on the neck.
He sure does. Piss on people. That's his job.
only
He sure
priests.
Yeah.
I feel like so much of my problem with the Demonic Toys universe, I feel like it's really crystallized for me now watching the second one, and it is that I hate Baby Oopsie Daisy. I hate this
So
character. I think this character is obnoxious. It's not funny. It's not scary. It's poorly designed, and it's just gotten exponentially more annoying in the second movie.
When Linda Cook does the baby Oopsie Daisy voice in that first movie, it's such an iconic thing to me. And the jokes in the first one, while they're super crude, they're also hilarious to me personally.
Oh, yeah. Sure.
But each incarnation of baby Oopsie Daisy after that first movie is god awful. I hate for Doll Man versus Demonic Toys, baby Oopsie Daisy has this kind of voice, and it's like,
no.
I don't need any of that shit. And it's terrible in Puppet Master vs. Demonic Toys as well.
Listen, I
hasn't
curse a
been good
lot.
since the first movie.
Yeah, I curse a lot, and I get that. Like in the first movie, this character, they're throwing out "fuck yous" and "fuck that's" because that's kind of
Yeah.
like, oh, it's
Yeah.
a joke, it's the baby cursing. But it's like I feel like the movie like kills the character off at the right moment, and you're like, okay, yeah, I got just about enough of that. This time, it's like, hey, you want to fucking see my fucking diaper, you fucking piece of crap, you fucking loser.
And
Well, not only that, it's in just like such a like a baby voice that is also like almost. It sounds like when I like a woman making a really poor choice to attempt to flirt with a man in a baby voice.
It's bad.
yeah,
And
it's the
Kinda.
it's the softening the R's and like the yeah.
Yeah, and like and not only that, right off the bat, like the second line of dialogue out of Baby Oopsie's mouth, she's calling Divoletto Guido.
Yeah.
Yeah, really hitting the ethnic slurs really hard in this movie.
What is up with that?
I
Or
don't
in
know.
Italy.
I
Again,
don't
it's just
remember
her-
Baby Oopsie Daisy being a racist or like,
It's just designed to be an offensive character, and like back in 1992 you can get away with it. You can get some like little cheap shocks out of like a baby doll saying the F word, but now it's like, okay, well, we've had 20 years of full moon movies in between, let's ramp it up in a wrong
Case
direction.
in point, the first time in the first movie when Baby Oopsie sees the security guard and says, "Hi, you fat fuck."
Right.
That is a funny moment.
That one is a little funny. No,
legitimately
that-
funny moment where
Yeah.
I laughed out loud rewatching that movie, and that never gets old to me. Here, it's like even like the first thing, the very first thing that Baby Oopsie says, which was the "Rise and shine, shitheads," which was my intro into the episode.
Yeah.
It's just I was groaning from
Yeah.
the very first time that she opened her mouth, and it's just like it's such an odd choice because Jane Weedland has a very I don't know if I'm using this word correctly, like mawkish, like she has a babyish voice already,
Yeah.
her normal speaking voice. So she's really putting on airs here, and I don't appreciate the work that's being done. And I feel bad saying that because I love the Go-Go's. I mean, you're talking
Yeah.
about the first band, the first all-girl band to write their own songs and have number one hits, like legends, absolutely
They're great.
legendary.
No, yeah.
This is
And like
something
she clearly has a relationship with Charles Band because she was involved with the music for Blood Dolls. Like she
There
was
you go.
involved with co-writing some of those.
so
and,
much better.
like, so much better.
Blood
Oh, so
Dolls
much better.
rules.
Yes.
Our
So much
episode by the time this episode drops, the episode we did on Blood Dolls will have dropped a couple of weeks ago. And we just had such an absolute blast with that movie. And the music, those songs in there are surprisingly not bad.
No, they're not bad. Yeah,
That was
I'm not
that was
saying I would like blast them on my the phone or anything like that. But they're solid enough.
that was the tail end, right? Towards
was-
Blood Dolls and Ragdoll and Killjoy. The first Killjoy movie, like that was the tail end of when Full Moon really started to take a nosedive for me.
Yeah, for a lot of people, and for Charles Band as well.
Yeah.
He's talked about like this stretch from like 2000 to like 2015 is what he calls kind of the dark years.
The
This is
dark
when
ages.
he lost his home. Like he
Oh,
had to
geez.
like this is one of the last films that we're going to see chronologically that was shot at his castle in Italy. He had to sell it before going bankrupt a little bit after this. So yeah, and he went from owning multiple properties to being flat broke and living on his girlfriend's couch and like all of this, and he was like facing down creditors and everything like that. And the budgets for his movies took kind of a nosedive. And I think this is definitely a subject of that era.
Absolutely.
Because it does have a couple of things that I can appreciate. So I really like that sort of starting in the mid 90s with movies like Head of the Family and things like that, they started injecting a healthy amount of Southern Gothic soap opera into all of their horror movies in a way that I really like. And this one kind of continues that with like the the scheming trophy wife and her hunky cowboy boyfriend.
Well,
who's
can
inexplicably
can
dressed
we
like
take
that.
a second? Can
Yeah.
we just take a second since you mentioned the trophy wife here? I do want to keep a little bit of praise onto the performance of Elizabeth Bell.
Yeah.
I really enjoy her performance in this. Like, it's super campy. She knows what she's doing. She knows what movie she's in. Just her delivery of some of these lines, like she's selling them. She knows it's ridiculous. And like Leslie Jordan, I think she injects a little bit of fun here. She's not given the world the greatest material to work with, but just kind of the way that she calls him daddy, like the way she was committing to this performance, it was, I enjoyed it. It was one of the standouts for me. I had fun with it. I was like, she understood the assignment.
It definitely gave me vibes of Robin Sidney and Evil Bong,
Absolutely.
where like, all right, this is one performer who's coming in and really committing, and because nobody else is matching her energy or trying to get on her level, she looks silly, and that's not really fair to her because I think she is like trying to do something and having fun, but nobody else in the cast is
Okay,
trying
so
as much
all
as
of
she
you
is.
guys presumably have all seen many times Sleepaway Camp.
Yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
One of the best
So-
slashers ever made. Yes.
Right. So what Steve is describing right now is what I like to refer to as the Desiree Gould principle,
Yes.
which
There
is
you go.
where Aunt Martha, her performance is being beamed down from outer space somewhere,
Yeah.
from a completely different movie. And it makes the reveal scene of Peter becoming Angela so funny.
Yeah.
Because she's having this whole like monologue out loud to herself where she's like, oh, water under the bridge. I always say water under the bridge. And it's like,
Right.
who is this person? What is this movie? And it's my favorite part of the movie outside of Eat Shit and Live.
Yeah.
But that's what
but-
she's doing here. She's totally like, she's vamping and giving an energy that's not really matched. And she stood out to me because of it.
Yeah. And that's kind of where I came down on her. But like and so many of the other characters are just so forgettable and bland. And like I watched this movie a week ago. We had to kind of move scheduling around a little bit. So like I was prepared to talk about it when it was fresh. And then a week later, I'm having a really hard time remembering a lot of the details of this story. Like
There's
I
not
know
much to
that-
remember.
I watched it today. There's not a whole lot happening. It's like
There's
they
really
get
not.
stuck in the castle because that woman and her lover have like a scene going on, and then shit hits the fan.
Yeah.
Basically,
More
yeah.
or less.
There's
and the
there's
guy
nothing.
is like a toy collector, like a vintage toy collector or something, who's like weirdly rich and powerful. And
Maybe question mark because he also has like the hand of Napoleon, and it's like, what exactly is your deal? And how did you even come across the demonic toys in the first place? How did you get the story?
yeah,
One of
But
my favorite notes I've ever taken about a movie was one I took for this movie, which I literally just wrote the words "Hand of Napoleon?" ?
Also, like we didn't
yeah.
really
Is Napoleon like an occult figure for some people? Like I've never heard that about him.
Yes.
Yeah,
You can ask.
Also, like
Is that what happens in the Joaquin Phoenix movie? You think?
I hope so. That's the
It's
one
like
thing.
the
The
that
demonic
gets me
toys
excited about that movie.
callback.
It's the crossover. Hey, we have something called the MDU on our show, and Napoleon, the Joaquin Phoenix one, and Demonic Toys 2 are connected for sure.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
right the movie dumpster universe where all movies are connected.
Yeah.
I just also want to comment on this intro that is totally like just again. I get that they're owned by the same company and they've even had movies together, but it's literally the fucking Puppet Master intro where Toulon's building the puppets in the first movie,
And it's
where this guy's
also-
fixing the toys.
Yeah, it's
Sean,
also Freddy
it's-
Krueger making his glove.
Right. Yeah.
It's also Bride of Chucky, but
It's
it's
also
more
Child's
Bride of
Play
Chucky
too,
than
yeah.
anything. Yeah.
Yeah.
But the first movie, Demonic Toys, that whole intro and the first intro for Puppet Master are identical. It's
Oh, they are. I
like,
don't remember that then.
yeah, they're like slow pull-ins and push-outs and rotations of like the puppets' faces and the toys' faces and stuff like that. Yeah.
Mhm.
yeah.
Maybe,
watch
maybe
them
it's one of
back
the
to
other
back.
ones.
Yeah.
But regardless, there's also I don't know if you guys were going to go into this, but one thing I really want to comment on is that in the original Demonic Toys. Now I watched this a few times, but last time I watched it was like 4 months ago. But
Oh,
if I
sure.
recall, the reason why they are toys is because they're in a toy factory.
Yep.
Right.
So why now is it this weird thing where it's like, well, there's a devil puppet So the devil puppet can magically resurrect these toys or something because it's demonic toys too.
Yeah, yeah.
You just
I
answered your own
actually-
question. It's a Demonic Toys 2. It's a sequel. You got to go big,
Yeah.
man.
It's
Also,
not
like,
even the
they- you know,
same
they-
thing.
Yeah,
I think they're stretching a
we
little
see
too
them-
much to make this work.
Yeah.
We see somebody kind of piecing together some of the remaining chunks of the toys from the first movie,
Right.
presumably at the toy factory,
Mm.
and then they get shipped off to Italy for some reason. Now, I don't know why they didn't get all 4 toys. Like, there
Well,
must have been
Mark
enough
blew up the
pieces.
teddy bear, I guess.
Well, he
I
also
guess.
blew up Jack Attack's head. But
Yeah, they all got blood. They're all in chunks.
Okay.
You know?
All of
They're all
them.
being stitched together.
Those are at the hands of Brick Bardo.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
I'm
Yeah,
pretty
maybe
sure,
there is some continuity there. They got permanently deleted by Dollman himself.
I think it's just because they didn't have any money to make the other toys. Did you see Baby Oopsie Daisy? She barely can talk.
Ugh, it's
It looks like a customized like baby doll. Like it doesn't look like an originally manufactured piece.
no, yeah. I mean, you could kind of see the model paint like clumping on this thing. Like it,
Yeah,
it
it's
looks really poor, even
really
for something that's supposed to look like a toy.
Mhm.
You know, we did give praise in the first one to the character designs and like the way that Baby Oopsie would like scowl or like he'd pull like
Yeah.
a Walter Matthau face sometimes, you know, like and just kind of there was some expression on the face that is completely absent here.
This is just
And-
like a dummy. Like the mouth is like cut out and like somebody's moving it with like a stick. You know, there's no blinking, there's no expression in the face.
Yeah,
And it's a damn shame, you know, because you're watching this movie for I don't know, the demonic toys, and they're
yeah,
terrible.
that's what I would be excited to see. And it actually takes them quite a while for them to actually get onto the scene, if I recall. Like we get Divoletto, but he's not that interesting of a character design, honestly. Like I like the idea of like an old toy, like an antique toy, like from the 1800s or older, you know, just like being brought back to life. And then I like the wood grain texture of it. But ultimately, it just kind of looks like Blade from Puppet Master.
Yeah.
But there's no movement in the mouth. No, there's
No.
nothing. It's just static, and it's a shame, you know.
It is static, but I'll be the defender here. I don't hate the design. I think the design's fine.
I think it's
like
neat,
I
but it's
Yeah.
limited.
It's fine, but you know, the fun part of these characters is that they kind of have hidden little gewgaws, you know, like Jack Attack comes out and he's got like a rattle, you know, like a snake.
Yeah.
It can pop out of the box and strangle you, or like a robot could electrocute you. The bear turns giant at one point. Like they all have little secret things that they can do, and Divoletto doesn't really.
Divoletto's not even a killer. He doesn't kill anybody in the movie.
No,
And
I
Baby
don't think
Oopsie Daisy even like calls him out on it.
no, he just walks around making little Frank Welker noises all the time, going,
so. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
guess they thought this was Puppet Master. I swear to God, William Butler did not know the movie he was writing or directing,
Yeah, I'd be willing to bet.
and he
Yeah, the fact that
worked
so
on a lot of
prominently
these
features a
films.
puppet.
So it doesn't make any sense to me that this I don't know. Maybe if I saw the other 3 films, I this would make more sense. But I was just scratching my head throughout this entire film.
Yeah,
I think the setup would lend itself more to a Puppet Master movie than it would to a Demonic Toys movie. Because the toy aspect of it, you're totally right, Sean. You said before, like they're in a toy factory. It makes sense why all these different toys are around. Here, it's like they're just looking for antiquities, and these surviving toys from Demonic Toys are there. But it could have very well been an ancient puppet. I mean, that's really what these things are more like. Although one thing I do want to say that we get here that we don't get in the, I'm not saying it looks good, but one thing we get here that we don't get in some of the other movies is we get like a toy / puppet running. And we get like a full body shot of the puppet running, which I appreciate that they attempted to pull off. Now it looks very 2010.
It's CG and it looks terrible.
Sure.
Oh yeah.
Especially
Yeah,
when
the
they jump on the wall and like run up it. I'm like, what
Oh, that's
are we
really
doing
bad.
here?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I will
there
agree
was
that
an,
at least when it's in the hallway and it's quick, you kind of just don't think too much of it. But yeah, when they jump on that bed, it's like holy shit.
Real
this-
quick
go
with
ahead, yeah.
with the demon. You know, in that first movie, there's like a whole thing of the demon luring Judith Gray there and wanting to possess the baby and wanting to be reborn and all this stuff. And again, like Sean said, by proxy, the toys are in the factory and they get possessed to do his bidding. But like we get Divoletto like resurrects these demonic toys for literally no reason, and then I guess gives them the same personalities. Like, what is the magic there, and what is inside Divoletto? Because he's not even but he's not even like a bad puppet or a bad toy. Rather, he's got demonic powers, question mark, but like the demon is like non-existent because it's also in a basement and like also in a possessed form through what's her face. It just doesn't make any sense.
No, none of it really comes together, and a lot
There's
of that
no
I will admit
motive,
is
you
like,
know?
yeah, a lot
Right.
of that I'll admit is my fault for not like. But partially it's not paying attention, but mostly it's this movie did not hold my attention. It just felt kind of like a lot of like unconnected occult nonsense being strung together. You know,
That's
it
what it
didn't feel
was.
like it had a strong purpose to exist. But yeah, we talked about the CGI looking really horrible. Sometimes you could see Baby Oopsie move, and it looks like that baby from the Ally McBeal episode. You know, like the classic
Chugga
dancing
baby, yeah.
baby meme.
Dude, it is
And,
the dancing baby meme. You're absolutely right.
we're also at the peak of terrible looking CGI blood.
My goodness.
Which is
Ugh.
like mainstream movies were guilty of this as well. I remember seeing
Sure.
Rambo 4 with everything just looks like it looks like Roger Rabbit, you know, like it just
Yeah.
is spewing
Well,
everywhere.
That's
Like,
that's an insult to Roger Rabbit.
oh yeah, no, exactly. But yeah, it looks.
Wait,
called Roger
Rambo
Rabbit.
4 was Rambo 4 the one that was just called Rambo?
Yes,
That was
yeah,
the one when he was with Julie Benz and just killing everyone.
that's right. Yeah.
When
Yeah,
you
that one was neat.
when you watch a full moon movie, you expect practical effects. And
Yeah,
there's like
right.
there's literally like 2, I think, in this movie. And there's a ton of horrible like CGI knife stabbings and like a hand and like a leg. I mean, it is blatant and it is bad.
There's an appendage stabbing that happens in this movie, and I don't know where on the body it happens.
yeah.
Like, it's so blurry and unclear that I was like, was that a hand? Was that a thigh? I can't even tell what
A
it was.
leg.
Even the editors knew this looked bad because they keep these fucking CGI shots on screen for maybe like 2 or 3 frames, and then they just it doesn't even make a full second. It's so quick. I had to go back and be like, did I just see a CGI knife going through someone's CGI leg
Yeah. Or
with this horrible bad blood on the ground?
the Leslie Jordan decapitation scene.
Oh,
is,
my
yeah,
goodness.
a pretty
you working there,
hilarious example of
Devilito?
this. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, oh,
I mean,
he
we,
has to
hang out
at the spa
later or some shit or something.
He does technically kill someone because he helps Baby Oopsie cut off Leslie Jordan's head. So does that count?
Sort of. sure.
yeah, that's guilty by association there. We're gonna hit a lot of the dregs of the sort of the early late stage full moon stuff, which I would consider this to fall firmly into. But and you know, our mission statement of the show isn't to come out and just drag these things through the mud and talk about how bad something is. I mean, if we have negative opinions about aspects of the movies, we share our objective opinions, but like, or I guess that's an oxymoron. No opinion is objective, but you know what I mean.
Ours are for sure.
But like that, the Leslie Jordan decapitation might be the worst thing we've seen so far in our run.
I don't know. I think for me, I just, you know, even when the 90s era full moon movies are bad, there is a kind of like
Charm.
Charm, like a joie de vivre to it, you know, where like you can tell that Charles Band is just so excited that he's able to get away with making these, that he can like take these dumb ideas and then get some artists to work on it, and like they're having fun making it. This doesn't feel like anybody's having fun. This doesn't feel like an enjoyable time. It feels like, all right, well, I guess people want another demonic toys. Let's just make whatever bullshit and get it out there. You know,
which is unfortunate because it's like, oh, well, that first movie's bullshit. And then like, you can totally make the argument that it's not bullshit. I know you guys already have made that argument. However, you know, I think it's a very well produced B movie. I mean, yeah, it's direct to video or whatever, but like it's Full Moon was top tier direct to video stuff in the 90s for sure, or in the early 90s anyway.
Yeah, especially in the early 90s in particular, when they had budgets of sometimes approaching $1 million.
Yeah, that's insane.
This one probably came nowhere near that. You know, I think they shot this in about 10 days.
It feels like it.
Leslie Jordan arguably lost money on this because he wrote in his autobiography that while he was there, he had a little story about this, that he met a local gentleman and had a romantic encounter and woke up the next day to find that his laptop, his camera, about $1,000 cash, and most of his possessions, his passport, they'd all been stolen.
Oh,
Wow.
no.
So, yeah, some people may have actively lost money on this gig.
And I would
that-
imagine he did this gig because he needed the money, and he
Right?
Rough.
Yeah.
The car stealing joke just came full circle from the movie.
in the
So-
movie, yeah,
It's
right.
those Italian villager ruffians. They stole the cars, but it looks like they stole all Leslie's money and stuff.
Well, maybe that was a reference. Maybe that was like an in joke or something. Yeah.
Isn't that
would be
funny?
Yeah,
terrible.
just,
Leslie?
just add it to the script.
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, like, honestly, I can't even really remember how this all wrapped up, or like,
Well,
what
okay, so
what
they
the
have-
ultimate point was here.
They have that character Lilith, who's basically like Zelda Rubinstein. Like she basically says the verbatim line for Poltergeist. She's like, "This place is not clean,"
Mhm.
and then she's like walking around, and she's like, I forget the term. Is it psychosomatic, where you touch things and you kind of can see, like what
Yeah.
happened to it?
No,
does
it's
it
not
well, it's
psychosomatic. It's
clairvoyant.
Psychokinetic. No, that's not it either.
no.
Psychosomatic is like when you make up
Oh
problems
yeah,
in
that's
your
from
head.
Stepfather 3, right? With the kid in the wheel.
Oh,
pick it up.
psychoreactive, I think might be the word. I don't know.
I forget, but
get in the
specifically,
weeds.
I always think of the Boneyard because the character Allie Oates has that ability where she touches the thing and then she can see what happened to it.
It's
Oh, yeah.
psychometry. Psychometry.
Psychometry.
There you go.
There
There
it
we
is.
go.
Thank you.
But this character Lilith, she touches the puppet and she could feel it's demonic, so she wanted to do a seance on it. But there's this whole like B plot, like you guys were talking about earlier, where like the woman and the cowboy, you know, they're really together, want to like steal all of the doctor's money, so they're gonna swap the puppet out. So that's kind of that's where the plot kind of turns into from them just trying to survive in this castle for the night to now, oh well, now I'm gonna do this seance and this is gonna turn to the night of the demons for like 5 minutes, but not
Question
really.
mark. Celine, by the way, what's her name? Celine.
Luna?
Yes, Luna.
Lilith,
Yes,
yeah.
that's right.
Celine Luna, who gets put through the ceiling by way of pickaxe by Harry Warden in the My Bloody Valentine 3D remake.
Oh, right.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, there's like a plot with her where she's having a seance and channels the ghost of the woman who owned the castle.
She
Or
gets
something.
Janos
Oh, she does.
She
Straight
get
up.
punished, yeah.
Good pull.
by this painting, this horrible effect. I know we already talked about bad effects, but this like purple fucking energy hitting her in the eyes, like Raiden from Mortal Kombat, the electricity coming off her eyes.
The
Think about
energy,
this.
the energy is so funny because this movie, she has a line of dialogue that I wrote down because it made me laugh because it made no sense whatsoever, and I think it was something either lost in translation or the line was delivered the wrong way. But she's talking about the castle and she says the phrase, "It's got an energy like anything I've ever seen." So
That's certainly
Like
no time
anything.
for a retake, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, I honestly, I imagine they didn't. Yeah, they probably had a very strict timeline to get this done in. And so, yeah, if any flubs like that made it in, there were
Well-
definitely like moments where people seemed to be struggling to remember their lines. I would have given it another take.
To your point, though, I feel like this is also like another case of, and again, it's also like a direct to home video kind of thing. So it's like these movies aren't exactly long, but this is like a hard hour and 20 minutes, and a lot of this movie just feels like padding.
Oh, big
where
time.
yeah,
there's just
sure.
that seance scene is interesting, but when it just continues to go on and on and on, I'm like, okay, I'm like checking my watch. Can we get to the next fucking part? And then we cut back to it. I'm like, holy shit, what are we doing?
Yeah.
Well, to Steve's initial question too of how this wraps up, it's like the person who used to own the house was possessed by a demon and then was exorcised, but the demon's still there, but also has nothing to do with the doll, Divoletto, or
Right.
the demonic toys. So they kind
Yeah.
of coexist at the same time. There's no connection between either of those things.
They
And-
really are like it does definitely feel like an unrelated script that was just kind of jury rigged to have some demonic toys in it.
And this demon like comes out of a well and like takes her soul out or something, and then like the dolls are dispatched like literally in 2 seconds. Like the Skarsgård lost brother is there and he bashes Divoletto in the head with a shovel and then cuts off baby Oopsie Daisy and Jack Attack's head, and that's just it.
Mhm.
It's just over.
With a
That's it.
shovel.
Yeah.
World's
Yeah.
sharpest shovel.
I
Yeah.
guess, yeah.
Well, okay, but we all were there. We were all present and into the moment when baby Oopsie Daisy gets shot in the head and says, "Ow, my skull."
Right.
Technically,
With the doctor has that mini pistol he's fucking, flying around with, like, oh yeah, I could kill you, and that guy wrestles it out of his hand like twice.
yeah, there's only 2 shots in that gun too.
I like the idea
Also-
of like that. It's kind of like a Friday the 13th 4 idea where you're just down there screaming, "Ah, he's killing me! He's killing me!" It's like, yes, we know you're shooting me in the skull. Ow! Yeah. More people should make that clear in horror movies.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, but this one, like I said, it definitely cast the first one in a different light for me, because that first one, like it has its flaws, it has things that I didn't really like connect with when I watched it, but it felt more like a real movie than this one does.
It has atmosphere, and there's pretty weird stuff in that first one, like the little girl on the tricycle and stuff like that. Like,
some dream sequences.
The
sequences.
surrealist dream imagery in Demonic Toys in the first movie was something I liked a lot. I think that was one of my favorite parts of it, actually, aside from some of the cool character designs and practical effects, was the dream stuff I liked. We didn't really talk about Dr. Lorca very much because his role in this is a little unclear, except for that he sort of looks like what I imagine if like David Strathairn was auditioning for regional theater to play Phantom of the Opera.
yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. Yeah, I think that's exactly right. Yeah, he's Z grade Strathairn.
I'm surprised they haven't slipped his ass into some puppet master to make him Toulon or something, like another flashback movie or something.
He has that energy. Yeah. He definitely does. Yeah, for
I'm
sure.
sure Guy Rolfe, yeah.
Well, that being said, like Michael Citroniti, the actor, like he's not bad.
No.
It's not that the performance is bad. I mean, he's not given a ton to work with, and he's not, like we mentioned before, there's only a couple people who are surrounding him who seem willing to match the energy of Leslie Jordan and of Elizabeth Bell. And so he's sort of caught in limbo because he has a lot of scenes with the other two leads who are very forgettable. And so he's not given a ton. But I mean, like, I think the character, there's some interesting stuff there. It's like he has a very distinct look, and I wish his nefariousness or his was more upfront. I mean, he does vamp a little bit when he can, but I think there's some interesting potential for that character outside of the realm of like the movie Hideous and now this movie.
I think what really hurts it is you've made the character too convoluted. It's like, well, he's this guy with this wife who has this son, but it's not really her son from another marriage. It's like, dude, just make the kid his son with the young wife, and then have the turmoil between him and his son. I think that's just an easier straight path and we would have got a little bit more better performance out of it, because he has no connection to his son because it's not his son. Like, why is he reprimanding him at any point? It doesn't make any sense.
Like, genuinely, at one point, I would just be asking, like, okay, well, why am I here?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
I'm the ward of my former stepdad?
Question mark.
Yeah.
Also, probably the funniest sex scene since probably like the Human Tornado or Petey Wheatstraw, like the Rudy Ray Moore classics, because this guy, after he fucks his wife, gets out of bed and he literally had all his clothes on still, so he must have just pulled his penis out of like the jeans. And I was like, oh my god,
time is of the essence, man.
Satisfied.
Hey,
I must get back to my seance.
And I guess he knows that the demonic toys are what they are based on some stuff he says towards the end, where he's like, I'm not leaving this castle without those toys, the special. It's like,
dude,
okay.
Yeah, but he never hints to them at all, and there's no reason why they're there in crates. There's literally no reason. He never talks about them. He talks about the toy being Divoletto, which is worth a lot of money because it's, I don't know what, an ancient toy that came to life by way of no strings. It was a Toulon special, but not really.
Yeah, a little bit.
It's funny in talking about this now, because I'm watching it and I'm thinking, boy, this is barely a movie.
Yeah.
And now, as we talk about it, it's becoming more and more clear. The problem with this is that it's called Demonic Toys 2, and it has Baby Oopsie Daisy and Jack Attack in it, but it is shares so much more DNA with what a Puppet Master movie should be.
Yep.
That's really its fatal flaw, is that this is a demonic toy. If this didn't have Baby Oopsie Daisy or Jack Attack in it, and it had some of the puppets from Puppet Master, I mean, we know and love those designs. We love Tunneler, we love Pinhead, we love Blade, Leech Woman, all of them, Torch and Six Shooter. Like, you get those guys in here, you got a stew going. You know what I mean? Now you got maybe something. But
I think
because
it would have been more interesting for sure.
Yeah.
The ties would have been clearer as to why we're there.
Yeah.
You know? The elixir of life and all that kind of stuff. But we said it before, but like, this is the first movie, but like reversed. They put the toys at the front end and the other story at the back end, and you're like, wait a second, I missed the whole thing, and then we're at the end and we're wrapping it up, and the toys just die rather than like going through all the character development that we did in the first one.
Yeah.
I have a theory as to why people didn't care so much about the finished product quality of this movie. And I think it has to do with the timing of when it was released. Because if you think about it, like, William Butler was making this movie. He originally was making it under his pseudonym, Sylvia St. Croix. And then when the movie was finished, he was like, no, it's good enough. I'll put my actual name on it. So he put William Butler on the movie, which he was not going by that name while it was shooting. But this movie really coincides to me with the beginning of the death of video stores and the beginning of Netflix discs and streaming. Because if we know anything about Charles Band, we know he's been very resourceful and ahead on a lot of the curves and trends.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he could kind of see which way the wind was blowing. And I think he was less concerned with some of the things that the company was churning out from 2008, 9, 10, 11, really starting to get ahead of the like, oh, the internet and streaming is how people are going to consume media, or people are going to have movies delivered to them, like going to the video store like Steve and I did, and I'm sure Joe and Sean, you guys did when you were young, shaping your tastes and the person that you became, was becoming less and less of a pivotal moment in somebody's life, especially for people a little bit younger than us. And I think it all kind of coalesces in where, like, I think Charles Band realized that there was a new trend coming, and that full moon streaming, I mean, probably didn't know it as such, but there would be something a few years down the line where people would be having movies delivered to them, or there would be somewhere on the internet where they could pay and access all of this stuff. And I think I'm projecting this into Charles Band's head, that he maybe wasn't as concerned with the finished product of some of the full moon stuff being made at this time. I just feel like there's a disconnect.
Just look at the difference between like the poster art for the original Demonic Toys with that great green overlay and like these cool models like arranged. Like, you watch that and you're like, oh yeah, I want to see this movie. And then
it's
you look
a
at
painting.
Demonic Toys 2,
right?
And it is poorly photoshopped assemblage of 4 characters, one of which is not even in the film.
No.
Yeah, the teddy bear does not make it into this movie at all.
I think Charles Band did try like hell during those mid 2000s, like 2000, like around this time. He would try like hell with the Roadshow. I forget what number evil bong it was. I think it was there one with like a volcano bong or like a Hawaiian Krakatoa looking bomb or something?
Yes, I believe so, but I couldn't tell you off the top of my head which one it is.
Yeah,
I remember that one coming out and him taking the Roadshow and going to different theaters and like showing these films on the big screen, and like having guests and stuff from all the full moon movies and stuff. Like, I think I just talked about this with the scratch and sniff cards and stuff for the for watching the Evil Bong movie and stuff. But like, he was really trying like hell to keep all this stuff alive too. And then like you said, I feel like like shortly after that, it was like, all right, we're just gonna start churning these out for streaming. and it's unfortunate that there wasn't as much money or creativity going into these. I also feel like there was a point where there was a group of people that met up with Charles Band and was like, hey, we love your stuff. We want to make movies with you. And he was like, okay, I'm going to make films with these independent fans of these movies. And they kind of not took over, but, Charlie was paying the bills and these guys were making the movies. And you could see it kind of shifted into this like really, really bad over the top B movie stoner comedy shit. In the later stuff, I mean, there's like 6 Ginger Dead Mans and like 6 Evil Bongs and then Ouija's and stuff like that. And that's a taste that I just don't particularly care for, personally.
Yeah, not for me.
Yeah,
they're not for me.
So,
well,
it's a far cry from the heyday.
Definitely. Well, I think we might have fully covered everything we have to say about Demonic Toys 2. Thank you guys so much for being here. Can you tell our listeners where they can find your podcast and just kind of what you guys do over there?
Sure. You can find us at moviedumpsterpodcast.com. You can find us on your favorite podcast app if you'd like to listen to the podcast, or we're on YouTube if that's your thing. We do video. So there's a video and an audio show that go hand in hand together. What else, Sean?
I mean, we also do a couple other like side shows. We have a show where we cover the entire series of Tales from the Dark Side.
Right.
That's gonna be coming back very soon. Talks from the Dark Side is the name of the show.
Yeah, aptly called Talks from the Dark Side.
That works.
And then we have a bunch of other like little things in that vein. We just did well, actually I say we, but Joe, because we only have so much room in our set, the Video Dungeon. Joe just interviewed the guys from Heebie-Jeebie TV.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, we do a show called Fresh Picks where we talk about new pickups and what different companies releasing, like Vinegar Syndrome or like Severin or something. And then we also talk to independent filmmakers in the area and beyond to, put out the good word on all the good stuff that you might be missing. Not like Doll Graveyard or Demonic Toys 2 that are on Tubi.
Right. I guess just to put the final button on that is just kind of what we've been talking about this entire time we've been on the show with you guys, is that we cover a lot of these kind of films and the what's the term we like to use, the bad, the good, and everything in between. We cover just about every genre, but horror is kind of our main staple in a lot of those films, like Night of the Demons 2 or 3 we just covered, or like Project Metal B, stuff like that.
Meet the Applegates, all kinds of crazy stuff. I mean, Movie Dumpster, just real quick, is you might get the wrong idea where you're like, oh, these guys are just going to shit on a movie for an hour and a half, and that's not the case.
Yeah.
Movie Dumpster is the dumpster where the general public threw these movies, and we're kind of rummaging through and rescuing them and being like, hey, you should take another look at this because it's really good and nobody talks about it, kind of thing.
See, Joe, that's how I knew that you guys would be a good fit to guest on the show here, because it's similar in a lot of ways to the mission statement of Steve and I taking on this show, where it's like we're going to find and talk about and dissect and look at some of these things that go largely ignored by the general public. And so I can really appreciate what you guys do. And I also want to say that on your Instagram and your YouTube, in addition to putting out a lot of content, a lot of really amazing content, you guys also are really good at sharing and promoting stuff. So when I see your Instagram feed, like you guys are sharing things from profiles from other content creators, and a lot of them are people I've never really heard of before. And so I'll click on that profile, and now I've discovered through that even a few people whose stuff that I like too. So you guys have been really great in the community in terms of spreading the word on like-minded shows and stuff like that. So I just wanted to say, like, yeah, you guys are doing a great job with that, because I definitely can attest to the role that you guys have with trying to be a platform for other content creators as well.
Thank you so much, man. And I really appreciate that. And that's what this is kind of all about, is getting like-minded folks together and kind of growing our own community. You know what I mean? Where we have, these love for these movies and stuff, and even art and filmmaking and all that kind of stuff. So it's really great to be able to help everybody as much as we can, and encourage other people to do the same thing. We're all the little guy, and we're all doing great stuff, and you should always share things that you think deserve to be shared, especially by your peers, and just good work and good content in general.
Absolutely.
Raise each other up.
Absolutely.
Yeah, raise each other up.
Absolutely.
They do it.
Well, listeners, we would appreciate if you raise us up a little bit. So
Yes.
if you enjoy what we do, jump on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, wherever you're listening, drop a 5-star rating and maybe a brief review if you feel so inclined. We've said it before, but if you hate the show, leave us a really sarcastic 5-star review. We will read it that way. We will know exactly what you mean. So just that course of action, that's the best way to really stick it to us if you like that as well. If you want to follow the show on Instagram, you can find it at puppetmasters_Castle Freaks. You can follow me at _Giallo_Jerry and Steve at Minotaur Matador. But Steve, this is not your only podcast. Would you like to plug something else for our listeners to check out?
Absolutely. I'm also the host of Cinema Arcade. That's all one word. Cinema and arcade smashed together, because that's the podcast where I'm watching a movie, playing the video game based on it, and then discussing both with my co-hosts Justin and Jennifer. We have a lot of fun doing that. We just got off a whole spooky month where we were doing horror movie games, and then kind of segued into a whole month of Alien in November. We're doing the entire original Alien quadrilogy because that have all video game adaptations of them.
Oh,
so
that's fun. Yeah.
I'm so much fun with that. It'll be the third podcast in as many months where that talked about Alien 3.
I was just going to say.
I do a lot of Alien 3.
You have talked
apparently.
so much about
I'm the
Alien
Alien
3 in
3
the
guy.
past month.
Which I'm here for, and I own that, and I'm okay with it. But yes, you can check me out there wherever you get your podcasts, and be sure to tune in next week because we are covering another movie.
What's coming?
Kind of latter day cusper full moon movie that spawned a series, movie I'm not familiar with at all, but it is called Witch House, and that is as one word with one H, so it might be pronounced Witchhouse, but we can figure that out on the episode. We'll find out for sure how it's supposed to be pronounced.
Well,
we can solve that
enjoy
mystery
one.
now. It's not.
Oh damn it!
Hope you guys enjoy that one because I like that one too.
Okay,
Yeah,
all right. I mean, it's a David
I'm
Dakota,
familiar with this movie. This is a David Dakota, and he's come up a ton on the show. I'm familiar with this movie. Steve is not. I'm looking forward to hearing what he has to say about it when we get into it. So, listeners, keep checking out Puppet Masters and Castle Freaks if you are enjoying our content, and check out Movie Dumpster and all of their social media if you get the chance as well. And join us next week for Witch House, not Witchhouse.
Thanks for having us, guys.
Of course.